All right, let's dive into a really fascinating story about green energy, big ambitions, and a pretty surprising twist. We're looking at India's bold new climate promises, and what they reveal is a paradox that's at the very heart of the global energy transition.
So, let me just start with a question for you. What if a country went all out, built a massive network of renewable energy, enough to power half the entire nation, but then found out it could only actually use a tiny fraction of that power? And this isn't just some thought experiment. This is the real-world puzzle we're going to unpack today.
So, what's all the buzz about? Well, India recently announced a major update to its climate action goals. The ones that are part of the Global Paris Agreement. And this is a huge deal. It signals that they're really stepping up their game when it comes to tackling climate change. Now, to get what's going on, you need to know about something called NDCs, or Nationally Determined Contributions. Basically, you can think of these as the official promises each country makes under the Paris Agreement. They're public pledges that lay out exactly how a nation plans to cut its emissions. So, just how big of an upgrade are we talking about here? Well, let's put the old goals and the new ones right next to each other. You're going to see just how significant this shift really is. And okay, wow, you can really see the jump here. The target for non-fossil fuel capacity, that's up from 50% to 60%. The goal for reducing emissions intensity gets a nice little boost. And the carbon sink target, which is basically how much CO2 their forests can absorb, that's also getting bigger, aiming for up to 4 billion tons. So across the board, they're aiming higher. Let's just zoom in on that first number for a second. 60%. The goal is that by 2035, 60% of India's installed electricity capacity will come from things like solar, wind, and hydro. That word installed is key, by the way. It means the plan is for the infrastructure, the machinery itself, to be well over half clean. And then there's this, 47%. This is about reducing what they call emission intensity. The simplest way to think about it is this. It's about making the economy more efficient. It's about getting more economic growth, more GDP, while creating less pollution for every single bit of that growth. You're unhooking prosperity from emissions. Now, these goals look amazing, right? No doubt about it. But, and this is a huge but, this is where our story takes a sharp turn. Because when you dig just a little bit deeper than these big headline numbers, you find a catch, a really crucial detail that kind of changes the whole picture. And get this, India has already crushed one of its major goals. It's already blown past that 50% target for non-fossil fuel capacity, hitting 52% last year, years ahead of schedule. On paper, this looks like an incredible success story, but this is exactly where the paradox begins. And this chart right here, this lays out the problem perfectly. Just look at the massive difference between these two bars. So while 52% of the capacity to make power is green, only about 25% of the actual electricity that gets generated and used is from those green sources. It's like having a giant rainwater tank that you've managed to fill halfway, but you've only got a tiny little cup to get the water out. The potential is there, but you can't actually use it. So the big question is, why? Why is there this huge gap? Well, this quote really hits the nail on the head. The sun doesn't shine at night, right? And the wind doesn't blow all the time. Without enough battery storage, all that amazing clean energy that's generated when it's sunny and windy, a lot of it just gets lost. It can't be saved for when people actually need it most. Okay, so that's the problem. And it's a big one. But that brings us to the most important question. What's the solution? How does India close this gap and turn all that awesome green capacity into real, usable power 24/7? It really comes down to two absolutely critical pieces of the puzzle. First, they have to massively scale up battery storage to save all that solar and wind power for later. And second, they've got to improve the national electric grid, making it smarter and way more efficient at moving that stored power to exactly where it needs to go, right when it's needed. And solving this whole capacity versus generation puzzle, it's not just about hitting those 2035 goals. It's actually a critical stepping stone on a much, much longer journey. So let's just zoom out for a second and look at that bigger picture. See, these new 2035 goals are a super important milestone on this timeline, but they're not the final destination. They're designed to put the country on the right path to meet its biggest, ultimate, long-term promise, achieving net zero emissions by the year 2070. You can't get to 2070 without nailing 2035 first. So what's the big takeaway from all of this? Well, first, setting ambitious goals is awesome, but it's really just step one. The real heavy lifting is in making it happen. Second,
Technology, we're talking batteries and smart grids, is the absolute key to unlocking all that green potential. And finally, you have to realize that India's challenge right now, it's a preview of what every single nation is going to face as they try to switch to renewable energy.
Which leaves us with one final critical question. The ambition is there, the goals are set. But can the technology, the innovation in batteries and grids, move fast enough to turn these powerful promises into actual power? Honestly, that remains the multi-trillion-dollar question for everyone.
You can download the complete notes of this video from the pinned comment below. If this video helped, do like and subscribe to the BriefCase for daily visual explanations.